On the 25th of August 2016, a group of 8 marine life experts from the Sea Life Centre network arrived in the Maldives. They were there to check on the development of infant corals, carefully positioned on the seabed by a similar expedition a year earlier, and to add to them. This glorious Indian Ocean archipelago of more than 1,000 islands has long been a mecca for marine life enthusiasts from all over the world. The beautiful coral reefs, which had been steadily recovering from a bleaching event in 1998 and the tsunami of 2004, have just been devastated again. In a matter of weeks, acres of colourful corals were reduced to bleached white skeletons. The delicate corals unable to tolerate a sudden rise in sea temperature.
So we've just come back from the first snorkel of the trip. It's the first time we had a chance to see the frames that were put in the water last year. It's not been great. There was some growth, so the fragments were attached with cable ties and the corals have overgrown the cable ties, which is a good sign. But because of this bleaching event, everything that we put out has died.
Inside corals are thousands of tiny plants. It's these plants which give the coral their colour. These plants have adapted to live at a certain temperature.
If the sea temperature increases too much, then the plants inside the coral will die. What will then be left behind is the bleached white skeleton, and the coral loses all of its colour. Large areas of coral reef can very quickly become affected by bleaching. Here in the Maldives, for instance, 98% of reefs have been affected.
The project to replenish the Maldive reefs was started in 2007 by a company called Seamark. Since then, 5,000 frames have been planted.
The climate is really changing. We've never seen so much wind in the Maldives. Usually it's really not a place where you suffer from any kind of storm really. And this year we had to do all the work under very harsh conditions.
So when we build a coral frame, we need really healthy coral to do that. And when we're looking for the corals on the natural reef, we try and find a colony that's already started to die off. And by taking that colony, harvesting the live corals, we can give it a new life, we can save that coral, and within 2 or 3 years, the growth is incredible from a coral that would have otherwise died on the reef. So
by providing the coral frame, we are just giving the first skeleton, and we just put them in the best condition to grow, and using that we have more than 95% survival. And within 1 year and 1 year and a half, we have a reef that looks like a 5-year-old colony, and it's full of fish. So we really accelerate the recovery of the reef.
Coral reefs are important for a number of reasons. Not only are they the most productive habitat on the planet, but they're also really important for a number of species that come in to feed on the reef or to reproduce around the reef. Islands like the Maldives rely really heavily on the coral reefs as a form of wave protection. And since the bleaching event, the coral reefs have broken down, and in Afushi, the island that we're working on, it's been eroded away significantly. And that is as a direct result of damage to the reef. So for the rest of the week, we're going to persevere in the weather, continue to build frames, to transplant healthy corals onto the frames.
We're identifying how many of which particular species we're finding and which sizes as well, so we can work out what is in the coral reefs around the Maldives, to see if it's changed from previous years, to see whether that's affected by the way in which the corals are being damaged. We're experiencing a lot of rain, and this will also affect our work because any fresh water that touches the corals can damage them, so we've got to work very, very quickly in between rainstorms to be able to get it in and onto the frames around sort of any adverse weather conditions.
Yeah, I think the past 10 days have gone really well. We're all exhausted, we've done some very long days and a lot of hard work, but our contribution to the Maldives is 75 square metres of coral reef. It's the advancement of a project that is going to regenerate the reef after such a horrific bleaching event, and I think we're all really content with our contribution.
Taking back, the most important thing is transmit to the general public in our parks, in our sea life centres, of what is happening here. We need to show them that the global warming is a reality, it's happening, we can see it. So we are dedicating an exhibit in our center, for example, just to these frames and coral restoration that we are doing here. The important bit for that exhibit is to give the public the message of what is happening in the wild and what we are trying to do.